I think the Kids Online research tries to take a holistic approach in relation to the child. So we try to think about the individual level, the child, how they use the internet, what outcomes it has for them. We try to think about the social layer in terms of their parents, their peers, their school environment, their community. And then we also try to think in terms of the wider society, the country, its policies, its economic circumstances, its situation of social inequalities and so on. So we try to think everything around how children use the internet, and then all of those levels become points of comparison that we can look across cultures, across contexts and across children. And I think that kind of holistic approach is distinctive. And perhaps one other feature is that we are increasingly focused on the outcomes, not just how do children use the internet, but really what are the risks of harm that might result, what are the opportunities to benefit that might result, and we try to put the whole picture together so that we don't encourage a moral panic about this risk, and we don't put all children together in a box as if they're all the same. We recognise their differences. Always look at the context. It's always more complex. There are many factors that differentiate how children go online. And yet, at the same time, the other thing I've learned is countries are not as different as you think they are. Parents have some similar worries, teachers have some similar struggles, children have some similar motivations in very different contexts around the world. I've spent more time tracking the impact of the research at the European level, though also in Britain and then other contexts. It's always very hard to say, because we did this research and we found these findings, this or that changed. I think I could say that the policy context has become more aware of the context in which children live and the motivations, the ways they really go online and the kinds of risks they're exposed to. So we can see fewer policy mistakes because policymakers have the evidence to ground them. And we can see a number of policies that have guided, a number of ways in which our research has guided awareness raising campaigns or helped policymakers target the particular children at risk who need the support. And I think we have helped policymakers see that if they take too protectionist approach, then they will reduce children's opportunities to explore the internet. So we really have the research to say don't be too protectionist, but try instead to focus the protections where they're really needed. I think there are some real challenges for teachers and for schools because the technology changes fast. In most contexts, children get access to better technology at home than in the school, so the teachers always fear that the children know better than they do. But what we do see from our research is that children, when they go online and they need guidance, it's in the whole context of their lives. It's not just here's one lesson and you tick the box, we've done e-safety or we've done internet literacy. I think we would say from the research it's really important that teachers and schools have a gradual plan of how learning takes place over time and how you must always begin with what the child is really motivated in and what they want to learn. And most children love to learn through technology. So in a way, the door is open for teachers if they can only have the confidence and support to take it. Yeah, in the class we tried to understand how children learn across lots of different sites, at school of course, also at home with their peers, online. And we had hoped to find that the internet would provide all kinds of connections for their learning to help them bring the learning from school home into to show their parents or to enjoy with their friends or to develop through online exploration. And instead what we found was there was little connected learning of that kind, and instead children learn one way at school, the parents don't understand necessarily what the children are learning, the children want to keep their home learning separate from the school, from their peers. There are lots of disconnections, and those disconnections led me to think the problems are not with the technology, the problems are with the spaces where children feel they have their own agency, and they try to protect those from ever more intrusions and ever more demands from teachers and parents into their lives. So if we want children to learn across different spaces in creative ways, we have to support children's agency and not make them feel there are demands in every direction. Well, under the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, children have the right to protection, to provision of resources for them to learn, and for opportunities to participate so that their voices are heard in their community. And the internet, the digital media, can be a fantastic resource for learning and for participation, and but also poses lots of problems that need protection. So a rights-based approach invites us to see protection, provision and participation all together, so that we don't just favour one and forget the others. But it also invites us to think, how are these rights different in the digital era? What does privacy mean now online compared with what it used to mean? What does participation mean when children could participate globally, not just in their local community? So there are some very big aspirations for children's rights in the digital age, and there are some new kinds of problems, especially around protection, that also face them. I think there are so many new challenges for research. It's an enormous research agenda. Global Kids Online is really trying to understand the enormously diverse contexts in which children go online around the world, but also to find ways to compare findings across countries so that we can advise not only national policymakers, but also the international organisations that then speak to all the different countries, including where there is no research. So that's a very ambitious aim that I have with lots of partners. I'm actually also doing a very focused qualitative project just now on parents, and that really makes me think about how parents are supporting their children to use digital media now that parents also often or increasingly understand the internet and are themselves, some of them, digital natives. So parenting is changing. Parents sometimes pose a new risk to their children as they put the images of their child on the internet before their child is even conscious. And that takes me to the third challenge that I think is really important, which is about privacy. I think increasingly I've come to see that how children can maintain their privacy in an age where everything is recorded and every record is kept and subject to algorithms of aggregation and analysis. Privacy has become the means by which the threats to children arrive, but also the opportunities to participate arrive. You know, what do they have access to? Who has access to them? Where can their voices be heard? But privacy is so hard to research. It's so hard to ask people about. So I think we should do lots of really thoughtful, qualitative research on how people understand their privacy, when it matters to them, what the consequences are of mismanaging privacy.